This is Michael Popok. A federal judge in the District of Columbia has, and lean forward because this is a technical legal term, ripped the Trump administration a new one, including Pete Hegseth, the head of the Department of Defense, because she's about to, based on a hearing that just got held, she's about to block the efforts by Donald Trump and the Department of Defense to drum out of the armed forces those transgender soldiers who are serving with valor and with commendable records, and those with gender dysphoria, just because Donald Trump doesn't like those people and doesn't like those American citizens and has animus towards them, which is exactly unconstitutional, and you can't do that. It all came out into the open, burst out into the open in a hearing. Judge Reyes drilled and grilled the lawyers for the Department of Justice, who should have been wearing asbestos suits today because of the questions they were being asked. First of all, she ripped them a new one over a series of studies, scientific studies, that were relied upon by the Department of Defense, finding that they're incoherent and don't support the position of the Department of Defense. They were trying to argue that studies show that these kind of soldiers are more prone to suicide and suicidal ideation. And the judge says, have you read the reports? That's not what the reports say at all. And then when the lawyer reported back to the judge and answered, I guess truthfully, no, I haven't read the report, she almost ordered him to read the report. It gets worse for the Department of Justice. The judge said, let me ask you another question. Do you know how much the Pentagon has spent on transgender or gender dysphoria issues over the last 10 years? And of course, the lawyer didn't know. The judge said $51 million in 10 years, $5 million a year. Do you know how much the Department of Defense has spent on Viagra in the last year? And then, of course, the lawyer didn't know. And he walked right into the trap. And the judge said $44 million in 1 year. What do you think's the bigger problem within the military? And how is, she continued, how is the statements made by Pete Hegseth about transgenders, soldiers, that they're unreliable, that they're not trustworthy, that they have character issues, that they're liars? How is that not just attacks on the dignity of another human being? And how is that just not animus that is improper to be using as the basis for policy? Don't you agree that these are negative things and critical things about a group of people? And the lawyer said, well, I can't really answer that. She said, well, let me answer that for you. They are. And then she, I thought things couldn't get worse for the Department of Justice lawyer until the judge brought up the social media post by Pete Hegseth. Now, Fox News, which again is running for cover here and is not defending the Trump administration at all, is actually at the heart of the problem with what the judge found in the court hearing, because they reported that there was an internal Pentagon report that said that the Pete Hegseth was going to get rid of transgender people unless they were granted an exemption. But then when he posted on social media and reposted on social media, he left out really the exemption part and basically said he's going to get rid of all transgender people. And the judge said, I have a problem with that. In fact, I want Hegseth, the Pentagon chief, to file with my court on Monday a clarification that he understands that he can't drum out all the transgender people without violating the Constitution. And so we're going to see what happens on Monday. Now, the Trump administration has had a knack, or has a taste for opposing federal orders, and just rejecting the jurisdiction of federal courts. We just had it happen earlier today in San Francisco in front of Judge Alsup, who wanted the acting director of the Office of Personnel Management to come into his courtroom and testify, and they just didn't show up. And now the judge has to deal with contempt proceedings against the executive branch, who's arguing some sort of executive privilege. So now we've got the flouting of federal court orders by the Trump administration. That's the next stage of tyranny. And federal courts are now going to have to grapple with what they're going to do about it and who they're going to put in jail over it. But back to the case with Judge Reyes. So Judge Reyes said, I don't like that social media post. And of course, there was no explanation for it. And then she asked a very pointed question to the lawyer for the Department of Justice. She said, why should I rely on the judgment, such as it is, of Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, who's only been in his job for, 40 days, versus what the recommendations were for the Joint Chiefs of Staff, where the Joint Chiefs of Staff, or the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, said that transgender soldiers can serve admirably and have served admirably and with commendation and valor in the military. Why should I go through the list of things that Pete Hegseth has said negatively about these people, about these United States citizens? The post by Pete Hegseth, which got the judge in a lather, was Pentagon says transgender troops are disqualified from service without an exemption. And then he kind of reposts that. And the judge says that undermines, and the lawyer said, well, don't worry, judge. You just have to look at the actual language of the order and all of that. And the judge says, no, I don't like any part of that. I don't like any part of that. Here's how the judge grilled the lawyer further. She said, judge said, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs has determined that there would not be a problem with troop cohesion because of a transgender in the military. Who should I rely on? And the Department of Justice lawyer, Jason Marion, looked down at his feet and said, you defer to Secretary Hegseth. And then he fired back and he said, the scientific studies don't even stand for the proposition. So how can I believe anything that he's saying about his policies and his procedures? And then she went through the laundry list of things that Pete Hegseth has said negatively about transgender troops and said, I don't like any part of that. Here's what I think is going to happen. We're going to get a ruling, and I'm going to report on it here on Legal AF, that Judge Reyes has blocked the ban on transgender Americans serving in armed forces. These are people that are willing to make the greatest sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice for our country. Lieutenant Talbot, Second Lieutenant Talbot, who is a plaintiff in the case, as the judge said during the hearing, he has more commendations for valor than there are library books in our library. So you see where this is going. And then, of course, it's going to go up to the DC Court of Appeals, who I'm sure will affirm Judge Reyes. And then we're going to have to see what the United States Supreme Court has to say about all this. This isn't about, scientifically, are there two genders? Even Judge Reyes said that's even scientifically not correct. And where is that in the Constitution? That marriage will only be between a man and a woman, and there's only a men and women, and that's all we have. I mean, that's not in the Constitution. That's maybe in the Bible, but last I looked, that was not our governing document. So let's let Judge Reyes do her part for democracy and for the rule of law, and find this be unconstitutional and discriminatory and motivated by animus and valor and animus towards transgender troops. Got tongue tied there for a minute. Who are committed to being warriors of valor for our society, to protect us. Let them do their job. Let them be the patriots that they were born to be. That's the point. We'll continue to follow it all right here on Legal AF. Take a minute, boom, hit the subscribe button, signal to the world that you like the content. You need the content that you're getting exclusively here on this particular channel. And then you can follow me, Michael Popok, on all things social media at MS Popok. Legal AF, the podcast, Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the YouTube channel for Midas. And then, of course, we've got some amazing contributors here on Legal AF. We got Shan Wu, we've got Dina Dahl, we've got Karen Friedman Ignifilo, all the people from Court Accountability Action, Alex Aronson, Lisa Graves, and Mike Sachs, and people related to them. We call it Court Accountability Action and Friends. So until my next reporting, I'm Michael Popok. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories, the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.